Okay, guys, this is another video in the Survivor series. So this series is people's personal stories of surviving narcissistic abuse, and we'll jump right in. I'm going to keep this person anonymous just because you'll see as we go along, their situation is ongoing at the moment, as they're trying to still figure out exactly how to handle the chaos that this narcissist, actually they're being tag teamed by two narcissists, so they're just trying to figure out still how to handle this chaos. Not sure how to start this off. Not gonna lie, I'm pretty nervous sharing all this, and I feel anxiety just at the thought of it. Yeah. Yeah, and that's natural. I mean, damn, these narcissists, the kind of psychological control they have that placed over their prey is it's quite stressful. So you're doing the right thing, obviously, by getting this out. Again, by telling our story, we're validating our truth. Because when you sit there, these narcissists create such chaos, such unbelievable things around them and for you and in your life, that it's literally it's so unbelievable to somebody who hasn't experienced that type of abuse before. So having to finally talk about it, especially if it's been years and years and years of going through it and having never had anybody to reach out to or be able to speak this out without fear of reprisal, can cause quite a bit of anxiety. So hopefully, with getting this out, getting the truth validated, processing, and figuring out, getting those doors open to your healing, and it should open different avenues for you to be able to go down to be able to deal with this situation that you're in right now. And give you more, because you're proving to yourself that you care about yourself by telling your story. You're proving that you care, you're proving to yourself that you care enough about yourself to do these things that make you feel uncomfortable. Because these things are for your health and well-being. They're for your best interest. They're in your best interest. This is your personal responsibility to take care of these things. Finally, right? Not that this person hasn't been, doing things forever. It's just now you're finally taking that courage and taking a stand and saying enough's enough in front of the whole world. And that's an important step to take because, we've been poisoning ourselves. We've been doing all these things, avoidance by going to alcohol, going to foods, going to entertainment, going to distractions, hanging out with friends, anything to avoid dealing and facing these issues, because these things are they wear you out. They just completely wear you out, because these narcissists, these predators, they steal your energy from you. And so, to be able to get away and get a moment's reprieve from the trauma, from the abuse, from the suffering, from the pain is what we do as victims. We are just looking to feel better. Oh my God, it feels so bad all the time. I just want to feel a little bit better, just for a few minutes, just for a few hours, just for a day, right? So instead of running anymore and hiding from this, it's being faced, it's being addressed, it's being put out there for the world. The truth's getting out there, that you're making those energy changes, and those physical changes in your body go along with that. So, yeah, this is definitely the things you need to do to defeat that anxiety. I'll start with a little backstory of my childhood. So I've always had low self-esteem in childhood for as long as I can remember. Yeah, that's terrible. I really noticed it around 5 years old in kindergarten, and that's wild, to even know that you had low self-esteem in kindergarten at 5 years old means that your parents really fucked up bad. it was a bad abusive situation. That's what that means. It's very simple. There's no getting around it. And it could also come, you might have had an okay home life where your parents weren't outright verbally and psychologically and spiritually and mentally verbally abusing you. But, you could have been put in daycare from the ages of 2 to 5. And, the situation at the daycare could have been like that. And then you try to tell your parents, hey, at 3, 4 years old, hey, this is happening in the way that a 3, 4-year-old can communicate. And the parents like, well, it's not that bad. There's nothing I can do. And they'll talk to the daycare provider and they're like, oh, no, everything's fine. No, he's just a sensitive person, or she's just so sensitive. And the mom has to blow it off. The dad has to blow it off because they got to go to work, right? And there's only so many options usually for daycare. So, and daycare anyways is terrible. But anyways, my mother was constantly screaming at me and beating me. Yeah, that's terrible. My sperm donor father was barely around. So your mom was going wild, had free range on you, and your dad wasn't even around. He didn't give a fuck. I feel myself having trouble getting things out and explaining. Yeah, and that comes with CPTSD, which is childhood PTSD, or it's complex PTSD, but that stems from childhood, and so like I have an extremely difficult time with timelines. Extremely difficult. Like, it's ridiculous how difficult my time is. The time I have trying to put timelines together, it's very, very hard. And that is because the part of the brain that keeps timelines, the memory of timelines together, it does not grow all the way in those of us who have CPTSD. And there's other symptoms of that brain development as well. It's like a brain retardation meaning the stopping of growth, right? The retarding of the growth. So getting things out and explaining, definitely, especially with CPTSD. This was a pattern throughout my life when I tried telling anybody that my mom abused the hell out of me. Yeah, so, then you reinforce that. So not only are you having initially the problem getting things out and explaining is because every time you try to say something, your mom be like, shut the fuck up, or, go away, or leave me alone, or invalidate what you're telling her, or, belittle you, or make fun of you, or, all of these things, right? And then, and then you go and try to reach out for help as a younger child and let people know that your mom abused you, and you can't even get it out properly. So then these other adults are like, what the fuck? I don't have time for this shit, kid. What do you want? Right? And that, unfortunately, that is the way this narcissistic system is set up, to where everybody's rush, go, go, go. And if you go to these experts, these elders, these teachers, these leaders, supposedly these people in charge and authority, and you don't have everything laid out point by point and exactly and just hand it to them, they don't have time for it. Any kind of doctor, any kind of psych, any kind of, therapist, you are scheduled for a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever it is. And then your time's up. Get the fuck out, because the next victim has to come in and pay me their money. So, it's all scheduled. It's all rigorous. It's all, go, 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 go. It's not about the individual. It's all for monetary. It's all to pay bills. It's all to afford dopamine hits. And so, those of us who've been abused get lost in the system. We get tumbled down the line, and because nobody wants to deal with us. Nobody has time. The money's not there to make the initiative for anybody to feel like, okay, it's worth my time. And so this is what happens to those of us who have been abused. Not only can we not speak properly to get these things out because we're scared to death that that our abuser's going to find out, but that even when not only can we not get it out right, but the people who we're trying to get it out to have a very short patience and attention span for us. And so usually it doesn't work out when we try to tell somebody. Because even when we do get it out, that those adults that we tell these things to, that narcissist has played such a good, hoodwink on everybody around them that the adult we can finally get it out to usually goes back behind our back after we tell them and says something to our abuser. And then not only do we not get out of that situation, but now we're stuck in that same situation with our abuser knowing that we were trying to break free from their imprisonment. And yeah, that's not a good scenario at all. I felt like people didn't believe me. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And that is a bad feeling. This played out in a lot of authority figures. And so what this does too, and so she said this played out in a lot of authority figures, which, you go to multiple authority figures as a child and you get brushed off, you get disbelieved. And what that creates too is, the other problem that most of us deal with CPTSD is, when you go through this abuse and traumas for so long, for so many years, and you're disregarded and disbelieved and mocked and made fun of and told to shut up and go away, and it doesn't matter, and you're lying and all these things, what we have to do, what the brain has to do in order to survive in those situations, is we end up piling these things way deep down inside of us, and then we have to justify them for our abusers. So we end up with a type of Stockholm syndrome, right? We end up defending them. We end up telling ourselves, oh, it's really not that bad. Oh, it's not as bad as I say it is. Oh, it's not as bad as I think it is. Oh, I'm just exaggerating. And then we end up forgetting half the abuse, 80% of the abuse. We got to get it out of our minds. We bear it so deeply in our bodies, in our tissue, and in our subconscious that we completely forget. And so when we finally do go get an opportunity to tell our stories, and we get the courage up to tell our stories like this, there's so much that we can't even remember. We're just like, these stories, when these people tell their stories, they're just skimming the surface, guys. If you haven't been under narcissistic abuse, it piles up so deeply, so nasty, so the muck is just so fucking disgusting that this stuff piles up under, that we can't even remember. We can't even recall 80%. For all of us it's different, but at least 50%. 60%, 70%, 80%, because you got to understand it. Some of us went through our whole childhoods of daily abuse, daily psychological, verbal, spiritual, physical, sexual, whatever kind of abuse we dealt with, and it was on the daily in one form or another. Maybe not every single form every day, but for some of us, yeah. And you got to understand, you cannot survive living in a situation that is that horrendous, and being at the term with, okay, it is this horrendous. You literally have to, your mind, your brain has to shut it out and say, and you adapt. You actually adapt to living those environments. So when you hear these stories of those of us that went through this abuse, understand that you're only hearing the skimming of the top of the shit that we dealt with in our childhoods. So when she is explaining this here, you got to understand that this shit was so fucking bad. It's literally torture every day. You're suffering every day of your childhood. This is not how anybody should have to live. This is terrible. I look at these stories like her story here that I'm reading now, and I'd rather, in my story and Sue's story, I'd rather be digging precious minerals out of the earth. At least I'm outside in a third world country. And anybody who's been through this type of abuse can say the same thing. I'd rather take that physical abuse and take a risk with my life every day because I'd have the freedom. I would be away from my narcissistic abuser in a hole in the ground. At least I got peace there. I mean, it's that bad, guys. This is no joke. This is the kind of shit that drives people commit suicide every fucking day over this kind of shit. Because it's almost unbearable for most of us. Because this is completely against the human condition and how we're supposed to be living as eternal souls occupying this physical avatar. This is not how we're supposed to be living whatsoever. This is called survival. Every day is surviving for your whole childhood. When asked, well, how is your mom abusing you? I would automatically freeze up and not know what to say. Yeah, see, because the abuse wasn't so much physical, so it's hard to say, well, she punches me in my face. No, as a child, how do you get those words out? This person is manipulating me, gaslighting me, putting me down, mocking me. How's any child supposed to get those types of words out to explain to another adult when they're scared as fuck and they've been abused and put down their whole life? So, these adults would say, well, how's your mom abusing you? And you just freeze up. How do I get this out? It's, man, it's so, that is a scary situation. It brings me back to my childhood, and my mom would bring me in front of the pastor after pastor and talk about how bad I was. And a couple of them I would try telling, hey, I'm being abused, and they would do the same shit to me. It's terrible. It's scary as a young child to be in that situation. And you don't know how to verbalize it. You have no clue how to verbalize that type of psychological and verbal abuse that they do to us, and that spiritual abuse. You have no clue as a child how to verbalize that. And when I did attempt to say anything, it wouldn't come out right, and I was stuck looking stupid. Yep. My mother would always play the whole, oh, I never abused you card, so that made it hard for me and caused a lot of cognitive dissonance. Yeah. Yep. Outright abuse, man. I mean, just that it's disgusting. When older, I tried, her mom and people like this should be in prison. These are the type of people that need to be serving hard time. Because this is abuse of a child, and not just any child, their own child. When older, I tried speaking to her about the abuse, and she would say that she was a good mother. She took me on all these vacations and bought me everything I wanted. That last part is an exaggeration, LOL. She did write me a half-assed letter, though, saying she was sorry for my childhood. Yeah. So when you try to confront her about the abuse now, when you grew up, she would say that she was a good mother. Yeah, defending, justifying, and excusing. They use those justifications. I did the best I can. I did better than my mom. I did what I knew. At least you had a roof over your head and food in your belly and clothes on your back. I did more than this mom, right? It's always excuses and because they can't face it. Because in order to face it, that means their humanity has to come. They have to be speaking from the human aspect of them, and they're not, because they've been living in ego survival mode their whole life. And their ego says me first. That's all it cares about is me. Me. So they cannot hold that conversation with us when we try to approach our abuser later on when we're adults and we say these things. They have to excuse and justify, and then they don't want to talk about it. They excuse, justify, they give you the same, every single one of them gives us the same fucking excuses and justifications, and then they walk away. I don't want to talk about this. Why do you bring this up? Right? And then she wrote you a half-assed letter saying she was sorry for your childhood when you grew up. She wouldn't acknowledge the abuse still. Yeah, so she was sorry for your childhood. Here, let me finish. She would just say, sorry, I worked so much and didn't spend as much time with you, and I was strict on you because you were skipping school. See the gaslighting, turning it right on you. I was strict on you because you were skipping school. But you started skipping school in high school, but she was already treating you like that I mean, you were having problems way before 5 years old for you to be so, to have those issues that you had at 5 years old. So, she's just, and that's the thing that makes it even worse. This kind of shit when they do those half-ass letters or these half-ass apologies, because it's not even an apology. It's turning everything around on you, on the child, and putting you like you were the reason that your childhood was fucked up. You were the reason you were abused. You were the reason that you deserve this. And it just makes it mentally for us, psychologically and spiritually for us, it's even harder. It's more difficult. It's more pain. It's more suffering. It's even more abuse. Yeah, sorry I worked so much. And they'd say, sorry I worked so much, but, I gave you everything you needed. What did you want me to do? What was I supposed to do? Right? Everything's a justification. Everything's an excuse. I was trying to make sure you didn't do those bad things. Yeah. Yep. And then, because they think they think because their lie that they've told themselves that they live with, their ego lives with, their justification is, I'm a good mom. I do everything for my kid. And these are the same parents that are constantly like, you stress me the fuck out. Get away from me. Leave me alone. Shut up. You're stupid. I don't want to hear it. Right? These are the same parents who who will tell everybody how good of a parent they are, and they'll tell you how good of a parent they are the same ones who just can't stand being around you, can't stand your presence, can't stand your fucking, when you talk, can't stand any of it. She would paint me into this terrible wild child. So she gaslit me in her apology letter too. Yeah, so you noticed that, and that's good. I mean, you guys will see as I go through her story that she has done so much introspection to understand exactly what's going on, which is wonderful. Because she's already immediately, she's like, she gaslit me in her apology letter too. Yeah, that's exactly what she did. I skipped school and broke the law a couple of times in high school because I couldn't deal with all the shit anymore. Yeah, that's when I started acting out too, was in high school. High school age. That's what it is. I mean, you just can't deal with it anymore. By the time you get 14 years old, it's like, there's a rage in you so deep and a pain that hurts so bad, and all you want to do is numb yourself to it. High school is when I started trying to rebel. I was scared to do anything thus far because I was terrified of her. Yep. And it's about 14 years old is when most of us, say fuck it, and act out. Most of my memories, and especially, I mean, like you've already said before, you've already tried reaching out, you tried getting help, and nobody would help you, so it's like, fuck, well, I'm just gonna do whatever I want to fucking do, and what are people gonna do to me? I've been abused my whole life so far. Well, I mean, how much worse can it get? What, are they gonna throw me in jail? Okay, get me away from this fucking hellhole I'm in. I'd rather be in prison. I'd rather be in jail than with that fucking bitch. Most of my memories of the abuse was school-aged. I know the abuse still was way before that too, just no immediate memories. Yeah, that's fine. And I just suggest, taking your time, do your child work, speak to your inner child. If you haven't already, sit in front of that mirror, sit down in a quiet spot, look in front of that mirror, and start off, Richard, I love you, and go into that and look right in your eyes. No sounds, nobody else around, no nothing, and just have that conversation with yourself in a mirror and see where you're at. It'll tell you very quickly. You'll know. Like I said, the first time I did, I went, Richard, I love, and started bawling, and I couldn't even get it out because I realized as soon as I took that step and looked in that mirror in my eyes and composed myself and tried to say that, I knew I was lying. And I knew that I'd never loved myself my whole adulthood. And that I had lived in utter chaos my whole adulthood because I was so scarred from my childhood that I never I never faced it. I knew, and I still at that was like, you know, a little over a year ago now, but I still had no clue, or maybe a year and a half ago, I can't remember. It's documented, but I still have no clue at that time what I was supposed to do. I just knew I was supposed to do something. And that's immediately I started getting into child work and figuring that shit out. And yeah, so, you know, those memories will come back. Don't force them. Remember, our healing is like this because we've you know, us with CPTSD, everybody, but especially those with CPTSD, our problems are like this. And we have to, you know, everything's entangled. So we work on a little bit of this, and then it loosens this up, and then we got to work on a little bit of this, and then it loosens this one up, and then we got to work on a little bit of this, and then it loosens this one up, and then we got to work on a little bit of that one, and then it's time to focus on that one. So you have to really be present and aware in your healing, and be able to, you know, to fluctuate between working on child work to your physical health and well-being to detaching to, you know, all of these different phases of your healing. And you got to be able to smoothly transition between them and not be like, this month I'm doing child work and, you know, force it. And this month I'm going to work on my healing from, you know, physical modality. And it's not going to work like that. It doesn't work like that. You're going to drive yourself into a wall. You're going to burn yourself out very quickly. So we're not forcing anything. We're just literally going with the flow of our healing because we're learning to trust ourselves. And our bodies and our subconscious is going to let us know what needs to be dealt with when. I remember seeing a home video from when I was a baby. I was crying in the background and my mother started screaming to my sperm donor father, "Shut that baby up before I throw it against the wall." Yeah. So there you go. I mean, that is a perfect, you know why that's so perfect? Because a lot of us don't have that memory of something that is completely verified like that. To know that, so we just have to accept from our intuition and knowing that we were abused as babies, as young children, and so you having that is great. That's actually a great thing because, you know, half the time we feel crazy. We're like, it wasn't that bad. I'm just exaggerating. Oh man, what is wrong with me? It's always about us, right? Because our abuser always made us feel guilt and shame. So what we're doing is we're getting out of that shame and guilt, and we're trusting ourselves. We're no longer saying that we're crazy. We're no longer, you know, downgrading how bad things were. We're no longer saying, well, that might not have happened. We're no longer doing that. We're accepting our truth. We have to accept our truth, and that's why it helps getting our truth out there, because we get validated. Not only are other people validating us by speaking out like this, but also we are hearing our own words and thoughts from somebody else and able to validate that. And this is so good. This goes back to Sue's story, because Sue was like, you know, I'm not sure if I should go see a therapist or not. Guys, this goes back to therapists. If you find one, that's good. I mean, you're lucky. You're lucky. You're talking about 1 out of every 100 therapists is probably worth $5 an hour, is worth your time at all. So, and they charge, you know, these therapists are charging $200, $300, $400, $500 an hour. I mean, it's outrageous. And, you know, so what I'm trying to say is you got to be your own expert. And because this stuff's very easy. It's very easy to do as far as like the steps and how to do it is extremely simple. You just have to take that initiative for yourself. The reason I don't like the whole going to a therapist thing, for many different reasons, but another reason why is because it's taking that trust out of yourself and it's putting it on another expert. You're giving your authority to another expert to tell you how to fix yourself. You know how to fix yourself. You just have to remember how to trust yourself. Okay? So, so she saw a video from when she was, When she was a baby, she was crying in the background and her mother started screaming to her sperm donor father, "Shut that baby up before I throw it against the wall." This is actually embarrassing to admit, but I'm trying to be more courageous, so I will share it. No, kudos to you, man. That's fucking awesome. Because that, guys, believe it or not, that's not a rare thing to happen. That is not a rare thing to happen at all. This happens all the time. I mean, if you haven't been around this, then you're around a bunch of you've been around a bunch of fake ass people your whole life. Because I've been around tons and tons and tons of people where this is just normalized behavior. And it doesn't, I'm not saying it makes it right. I'm saying that this is pervasive in society, guys. This is no joke. You know, I know a lot of people nowadays live through online and have lived their life. Most of their friends are online. Most of their communications are online. They check up on their friends that they see physically through Facebook and all these other social medias, and everything smiles and rainbows and fucking, just bullshit. Toxic positivity. When really in these homes, this is the kind of shit that's going on. Constantly. I can only imagine the other abuse that I went through that I'm not consciously aware of. Yeah, exactly. I remember at 5 years old when I went to school, and think about what word would that be? Think about the audacity of these abusers to even keep a video of them screaming at their baby that they're going to throw it against the wall. I mean, think how normalized this abuse is in society and in these toxic family systems that they would even keep a video. Like, there's no shame or guilt. Because if it ever got solved and somebody had the balls to mention and was human enough to be like, "Hey, what the fuck? That's not right. What the fuck were you thinking?" And then they would just defend it and be like, "Are you you don't have kids, motherfucker. You don't even fucking know what it's like, how stressful it is, how they stress you out and blah, 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 blah." Right? It's disgusting, man. We live in sick, disgusting, toxic environments and societies and cultures non-conducive to human life. I remember at 5 years old when I went to school, I would always get notes home for acting out, poor performance, or just, I guess, maybe not listening in general. Yeah, 5 years old. See, I told my story of at 4 years old, 5 years old. I was in kindergarten at 4 and then 5, because back then you could go at 4. But I failed. I had to go 2 years. And I would get the dunce hat put on. I would constantly because I couldn't sit still. I was hyperactive. But yeah, you would get notes home, acting out, poor performance. This played out my entire grade school years. Yeah, and it's because of your abuse. It stems from toxic, all this ADHD, all these problems with kids, all this autism, all of this, all these mental problems are all due to not only the toxic chemical process poisons that we've been ingesting since we were young, but also in the entertainment that just comes at us all the time, the psychological abuse from the indoctrination from all the entertainment and everything else. But then you put these natural empathic kids into fucking school and make them sit their ass down for 8 hours a day and listen to bullshit lies. And the human, which isn't even adaptive or conducive to what we are supposed to be doing as humans, and then you take the abuse from your parents and your home situation, and you wrap it all up, guys. It's no wonder that every child in America doesn't have ADHD, ODD, ADD, autism, and every other fucking thing under the sun that these psychological bastards have labeled us with. They are just treating symptoms. Nobody's getting down to the root cause of things. Well, people are, but they're having to do it individually. Because these experts, right? These experts want to just give you pills. Want to just blame everything on you and gaslight you because they can't say it's society, because they're part of that society. They're part of that narcissistic, toxic culture in which we live. So they have to, that shit's normalized. That's normal for them. There's something wrong with you that you weren't able to live in survival mode, that you weren't able to live dog eat dog, that you weren't able to survive, that you weren't able to just take it and keep on moving and get stronger and just do what you got to do. It's your fault. It's not society's fault. It's not culture's fault. It's not the government's fault. It's not the education system's fault. It's not the toxic food industry's fault. It's not the psychological industry's fault. It's nobody's fault. It's your fault. That's what they want to do. That's what they do to us who speak out and try to get this shit. They make us look crazy. They say it's our fault. They say there's something wrong with us. There is something wrong with us. The fact that we're living in and surviving in non-conducive environments to biological and spiritual life. And it's that simple. It's just everybody else who isn't speaking out or showing these signs of ADHD, autism, and all these other things. They have their spirits completely broken. They know how to survive better. Shut the fuck up. Don't say anything. Go. You better just fit in. Don't stand out. Right? Go along, follow all the rules, follow all the laws, dot all your I's, cross all your T's, right? I was terrified for my mother to get these letters. She would scream at me, beat me, drag me by the hair, kick me in the head, etc. Yeah, sounds like a wonderful bitch, huh? I was terrified every time I failed a test and had to get it signed. Yeah. I was labeled ADHD. My mother said I had a learning disability. Yeah, I bet she did. These motherfuckers, man, gaslight the fucking shit out of you. And just think about this. You survived all this shit. You survived this as an innocent young child. You survived all of this. That is just a testament to how absolutely unbelievably strong you are. I mean, to have survived this as an innocent child, daily, being abused and psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, verbally, physically, to survive that is just, it's mind-blowing. Guys, those of us who have survived this need to understand and need to come to terms with the fact of how absolutely powerful we are. Because, see, the rest of society can't see that. Because they've never been put in these situations. And so me and you, we have to come to terms with the fact, oh my God, looking back and telling these stories, oh my fucking God, how does a human being survive that? How does a human being go day in and day out as a baby through their whole childhood surviving that kind of abuse? There's something more going on here. And not only how do we survive it, but how do we, because see, a lot of people that go through this kind of abuse, they end up in juvie, they end up dead at a young age, they end up in juvie, they end up on the streets, strung out on drugs, they end up in the prison system. Because they act out, like me and her acted out in high school, but we knew how to rein it back just enough to keep our ass out of prison and out of jail, right? But most of these people just go full out. They just act out completely. Because they have nothing to lose. Their life has been nothing but suffering, pain, and fucking sorrow and misery. Every day of it. So it doesn't matter to them. And these are the people that end up strung out drug addicts, young kids on the streets, in and out of juvie, in and out of the prison system. These are the ones, guys. Because this is all, we have the largest prison system in the world, in the same country that they try to tell us is the freest country in the world. We are a sick, toxic society. America, land of the slaves. America is land of the slaves. We are living in such non-conducive societies and cultures and systems of governance. But yet we are gaslit and told everything's fine. You have every opportunity to do everything you can, while we grow up in situations like this and we're just like, fuck you, motherfuckers. Take that fucking toxic positivity in your Jesus and shove it straight up your ass and go to hell, motherfucker. And it's no wonder, Guys, we need to wake up. We need to understand, because any one of us at any given moment, like I said, there's over 100,000 laws on the books in America alone. At any given moment, any one of us can end up in the prison system. Any one of us can break and end up on the streets, fucking strung out drug addict. We need to quit snubbing our nose to these people and acting like these people are no different than me and you. It's their fucking situation that they grew up in was absolutely horrendous, and they broke. They couldn't handle it. So for me and you, thankfully, I mean, we're still in prison, we're still enslaved, but at least we are fucking breaking free finally and healing. And we still have this opportunity, and we just have to remember, because this healing's so fucking hard, this healing's so goddamn difficult, we need to remind ourselves daily how special we are, how important we are, how unbelievably powerful we are. To have survived this and still be going and now have the opportunity to heal. And so when we have these hard times during our healing phase, we need to remember and be patient with ourselves. Be disciplined, but patient with ourselves. And we have to now take it upon ourselves and continue daily, moment by moment, proving to ourselves that we care about ourselves, that we trust ourselves, and that we really are putting our health and well-being first now. Because, guys, we have to know, we have to come to terms with the fact that we are eternal, all-powerful, all-knowing, empathic souls connected to everything on that spiritual level of existence, occupying the most advanced biological thing on this earth, connected to everything else on the biological level of existence. We have to remember who we are, innately, who we are. They've tried to break us. They've tried to steal our birthright. They've tried to steal our energy. They've tried to steal our power. They've tried to steal our attention. They've tried to steal it all from us. They've tried to take everything that it means to be human from us and strip us of it and just make us feel like the most worthless slaves on this fucking earth. And nothing is further from the truth. And they didn't break us. They hate us. These people wish we would die. They wish for our death now. Now that we don't feed these fucking predators our energy anymore and we're pulling away from these systems, they want our death because we no longer serve them. We are the rabbit that got away. We are the fucking prey that got away. And now they just wish we were dead. They hate us with a vengeance. And we have to remember the reality of our situations. Let's see. Okay, I'll read a little bit more here. I'm going to have to do a few different... My mother said I had a learning disability. She got me tested and they couldn't find anything. They said that I was actually on high school or college level with some things like reading. Yeah, and see, that's the thing too, man. There's so many points in here, guys. Like I was highly intelligent. My whole life, I've been very highly intelligent. I always was ahead in grades and everything. But as far as like what we have come to, I didn't even know what ADHD. My whole childhood, I was told that shit doesn't even matter. It's bullshit. I never even looked into that until the past couple years. And as soon as I did, I was like, oh my God, I've been ADHD, autistic, ODD, all of these fucking things. I'm packed full of mental disorders. And then I came to terms with, oh, no wonder, because everything they label a mental disorder, you can't have a disorder unless you're refusing to follow orders. And I figured out, oh, all my mental disorders are a result from living in toxic societies and systems of governance and that are non-conducive to human life. And my mental disorders are due to the fact that you guys labeled me as such. And it's because you're dealing with symptoms. You're not dealing with the underlying issue, the root cause of it. And you can only have a mental disorder if it's because you refuse to follow a fucking order. You're goddamn right I refuse to follow your fucking bullshit, toxic goddamn orders. Every single fucking one of them. Fuck you and your orders. So yeah, a lot of us labeled in these ways. A lot of people in the prison system, extremely intelligent. A lot of homeless people, a lot of fucking drug addicts, extremely, extremely intelligent. We have a lot in common, guys. Our stories resonate so deeply across the board. I was never allowed to have a normal childhood. You know what? I think I'll stop there and then I'll make another video here. So this is part 1, and we'll have 2 coming here.